Okay, so we'll start with the endocrinology system. Uh, it is a multi-organ, multicellular coordination between the different organ system of the body, a different cellular structure of the body or different tissue of the body, and perform the work in more harmony. And this regulation and this coordination occur by the two systems. One is nervous system and another is endocrine system. Nervous system is much faster. They directly stimulate from it goes from one end to other end, and they will act on a specific cells. Specific cell directly, while endocrinology is little bit slow to act. They act on a more general cell. So it is not like a cell to cell connection, but it is like a from one gland to the many cells. While a nervous system has a cell to cell connection, so it comes from the one motor cell or one pyramidal cells present in the cortex, and it goes act on a particular muscular cell. So it is not like that. So it is a more of like a broadcasting. जैसे रेडियो या टीवी ब्रॉडकास्ट करते, those who had a specific channel for that. Like a broadcast of radio or TV, it is like that. While central nervous system is more like a telephone connection or mobile connections where they are one-to-one communication. So this is just a few difference between endocrinology and central nervous system. Now come to the proper endocrinology. Though we call central nervous system and endocrinology as two different parts, but they are also connected to each other. And the connecting link is a hypothalamus. Hypothalamus has a connection with the central nervous system, is a part of central nervous system, but it does have a regulatory effect on a endocrinal glands also. So hypothalamus has a direct connection with the one of the topmost gland, which is we call it as a grandmaster of the endocrine system, that is pituitary gland, and it connected the hypothalamus with the pituitary gland either through direct to the nerves and also through the portal secretion where the hormone released by the hypothalamus and will act directly on a pituitary gland. Okay, so next gland which comes after hypothalamus is a pituitary gland, which is also called as a hypophysis, and it has a two parts. One is a neural part which has a direct extension of the nervous system or hypothalamus, and that is called neurohypophysis, or also called as posterior pituitary gland. And another which has an exclusively endocrine gland, which neurally it is not connected with the brain or central nervous system. That is our more of glandular structure, and that's why name is given adenohypophysis, or also called as a anterior pituitary gland. So this is like a it will come stock, and these portions will be anterior pituitary, and there will be posterior pituitary, and this structure is called infundibulum, and there is thin layer of the cell in between the anterior and posterior pituitary, where this posterior pituitary has a direct connection with the hypothalamus, while the anterior pituitary has a blood flow connection. So blood is coming from the hypothalamus and act on a anterior pituitary. Now come to the anterior pituitary glands, where the major hormones is secreted by the anterior pituitary or adenohypophysis, and these are like a growth hormone which promotes the growth of each and every cells. So growth hormone, which promote the growth of the almost all part of the body, and it also has a various metabolic effect that we'll learn in detail by the end of this class. Then follicular stimulating hormone, which promotes the growth of the gametic cells and sexual growth. Then luteinizing hormone, which promote the secretion of the various sex hormones, and also in a female it causes ovulation. Then prolactin, which promotes the formation of more uh, mm, milk formation in the breast tissue and also development of the breast. Then there is a TSH hormone, also called as thyrotropin hormone or thyroid stimulating hormone, which stimulates the release of the thyroid hormone, also synthesis of the thyroid hormone. Almost all steps of the synthesis of the thyroid hormone will be promoted by TSH. Then ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, are also called as the corticotropins, which act on adrenal glands and promotes the growth of the adrenal gland, also increase the secretions from the adrenal gland. Then come to the neurohypophysis. These are not the hormone which secreted by this neurohypophysis or posterior pituitary gland. This is the hormone which synthesized in a hypothalamus nucleus, and from there it comes with a tract, and they're stored into the nerve endings of those major big nerve cells, and they'll remain there. And whenever the stimulus will come, it will release from the posterior pituitary directly into the blood. And there are two hormones which they secrete. One is ADH, or also called as a vasopressin. As name suggests, it is an anti-diuretic hormone, so it prevents the diuresis. Diuresis is increased urine formation, so it is opposite to that. It decreases the urine formation and causes water retention. Apart from this, in large dose, it also acts on blood vessels and causes severe vascular contraction. And that's why name is given vasopressin. And both things will help us to increase blood pressure. Then there is oxytocin. Oxytocin usually not routinely it is released, but it is very important during pregnancy. So it can directly stimulate the uterine muscles and can cause severe uterine muscle contraction and participate in a delivery or parturition. It also has an effect on myoepithelial of the breast tissues and can cause a contraction of the myoepithelial basket cells and can cause milk letdown. So whenever the baby suck the nipple, it increases the concentration of the oxytocin that squeezes the acinase of the mammary glands, and that will release the milk from the mammary gland. Then come to the thyroid. It releases the two type of the hormone, thyrotoxin, which is also called as T4, and triiodothyronine, which is also called as a T3. It is present in the anterior portion of the neck. In a H shape will be there in H shape, and from there it will release these hormones. And this um, thyroxine hormone or triiodothyronine. Here T3 is more active than T4, but concentration of T4 is higher, and once it reach to the cellular level, T4 will convert it into T3, then it will show its effects. Its major effects increases the DNA transcription and produces the protein synthesis within the cell, and has its effect on the cell. It increases the various metabolism, specifically like glucose metabolism, protein metabolism, and promote the growth of the body also. Then apart from these cells are thyroid secreting cells are present in the acinar form like this, and there will be multiple acinas. So in gap between these multiple acinas, the small group of the cells are present. These are called parafollicular cells. These are called follicles, and they are present near the follicular. That's why they are called parafollicular cells, or also called as the C cells, as they secrete the hormone called calcitonin, which has the effect on calcium metabolism. Then just behind the thyroid gland, as we see the thyroid gland as a S shape, or also called as a butterfly shape. So just posterior portion of the thyroid gland, the four pole will be there. There is a group of the cells are present, and these are called parathyroid glands, and they secrete a hormone called parathormone. And this parathyroid also act on calcium metabolism and help us to increase the calcium level into the blood. Then come to the adrenal gland, which is also called as the suprarenal gland because it's present above the kidney, just like a cap on the kidney. So it is, if you see, it presents something like this. On the right side, it is more of like crescentic shape. On the left side is more of the pyramidal shape, and that's why name is given suprarenal gland. And in this suprarenal gland has a two portion. One is cortical portion. If you see this pyramidal structure, so cortical portion. So this cortical portion is called cortex, and there's a inner portion that is called medullary portion. So cortical portion is more related to the steroid hormones like glucocorticoids, mineralocorticoids, or androgens. While the inner medullary portion are more of related to catecholamines, and they release the adrenaline and noradrenaline, and also small quantity of other catecholamines. Then come to the pancreas. Pancreas is a gland which has a two parts, exocrine also and endocrine also. Exocrine glands secrete the enzymes, and these are helpful in the digestion of the food, more specifically protein, lipid, and carbohydrate. While endocrine plant, which is has a part which has a little bit at the periphery at the near the tail of the pancreas, and they are like a small group of the cells. That's why they are called pancreatic isolates or isolates of the Langerhans. And they secrete all the small groups. There are like a alpha, beta, delta cells will be there, and they secrete a different type of the hormones like insulin, glucagon, somatostatin, and they are more related to metabolism of the glucose and also related to the cell growth. Then come to the gonads. These are both testes and ovaries. In female, it is ovaries. In male, it is a testes. And ovaries secrete estrogen, progesterone, while testes secrete testosterone. And they are very important for our normal sexual behavior, sexual function, and reproduction. After this, apart from these glands, these are major glands. The remaining glands are they are very small, or they have a effect with a very limited portion. So one pineal gland which is present at the roof of the third ventricle in the brain, and they secrete a hormone called melatonin. And this melatonin has effect on circadian rhythm. So it will make your biological clock, and it will maintain your sleep wakeful cycle and other hormonal regulations. Then there is a one special gland, that is placenta, which you will usually seen only in a pregnant mother. And this placenta is one of the it performs various functions. It is like a respiratory organ also. It is like a excretory organ also. Like similarly, it is also endocrinal organ for the mother also and for the baby also. And it secretes one of the few important hormone which is necessary for the survival of the pregnancy, and that is one is human chorionic gonadotropin hormone. It acts on ovaries and promote the secretion of the other hormones, and also important for maintenance of the pregnancy. Then apart from this, also release the estrogen, progesterone, which is also important for the maintenance of the pregnancy. This somatotrophin, which is important for the fetal growth, and relaxin, which causes a relaxation of the endocrinal smooth muscles. So these are the few hormones, and if we get time and we'll study like a, physiology of the pregnancy, then we can talk about this function of the placenta. Then there are J hormones, the hormones polypeptides which secreted by the gastrointestinal mucosa. They are grouped as a J hormones. An example like a gastrin, secretin, cholecystokinin, pancreasamine. These are the enzymes, and which usually act on locally. Two, we can see these hormones in central nervous system also, but there they act as a neurotransmitters, while here they act as a locally, we can call it as a paracrine or endocrine like structure, and they act very locally to the GI, or their action will be limited to the gastrointestinal system. That's why they are reported as a GI hormone, and that this GI hormone also we will learn when we'll talk about the GI tract. Then come to the kidneys. Kidney secretes almost three or four hormones, we can call it four hormones. One is erythropoietin. Nowadays, it is not erythropoietin, but it is erythropoietic renal factor, which act on a erythropoietinogen present on a plasma, and then it converted into erythropoietin. Then there is a 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol. This is nothing but the active form of the vitamin D3. Uh, um, Cholesterol in the skin will convert it into 25 hydroxycholecalciferol, and then it comes to the kidney, and in kidney it will convert it into 125 dihydroxycholecalciferol, and then come to another hormone, that is renin. Renin is secreted by the kidney and will act on a angiotensin, convert it to angiotensinogen into angiotensin 1, then angiotensin 1 converted into angiotensin 2, and it has a very important role in regulation of the blood pressure. So this is also one of the important hormones secreted by the kidney. Then hormones secreted by the heart, like atrial muscles, and they are called uh, atrionatriuretic peptide. Atrial natriuretic peptide, and these are in response to when there is increased venous return and causes dilatation of the right atria. Then this natriuretic peptide will be released, that will causes more diuresis and try to decrease the blood volume. Then come to the skin. Skin also like participate in the production of vitamin D3, and it convert cholesterol into 25 hydroxy cholecalciferol. So the skin is also secrete one hormone. Then come to the general principles of the endocrinal system. That first thing, what is hormone? Or these are the substances which secrete by the endocrine gland directly into the blood, and then from the blood, along with the blood stream, it transported to the target cell, and then they act on a target cell, or they show their physiological effect on the target cell. That is what endocrine hormone. So first is a typical example this of endocrinology. Then there are different part of the endocrine hormone. Apart from this, like a endocrine gland is secreted and act on the cells, there are little bit variations in those. So if hormone is secreted by the, not by the endocrine, or any substance which is secreted by the uh, neuron, and they it released directly into the blood, not in a synapses. A synapses means release hoga, so we call it a neurotransmitter. But if that substance is released directly into the blood like a hypothalamic hormones, then we call it as a neurohormones or neurocrine, and then they act on a target cell. So this is the example of neurocrines. Then hormones secreted by the cells, and they'll act very locally, nearby cells. These are called paracrine cells or paracrine hormones. Like glucagon act on delta cells, which stimulate the secretion or inhibit the secretion of the insulin, or insulin act on a beta cell and sorry delta cell, which and increase the stimulation of glucagon. Similarly, GI hormone, gastrin will act on intestinal cells and increase secretion of the secretin of cholecystokinin. Then cholecystokinin act on gastrin hormone, and it decrease the secretion of the gastrin hormone. So this is like a locally they will act, and these are called paracrine effect. Then it comes to autocrine, when the cell release the hormone and act on its own. These are called autocrine effect. So like a cell release the hormone, and that hormone inhibits its own release by negative feedback mechanism directly. That can also occur. So these are example when the cell release and locally only they act on the same cell, and that is the effect of autocrine. So this is one of the example of autocrine hormone. Then, depend upon the chemical nature, also we can classify the hormone, and this is very, very important. Because if you understand this classification, then you can understand the mechanism of almost all hormones, because hormone act on their chemical properties only, and that's why chemical classification is very important. Okay, so depending upon the chemical natures, we can divide a hormone into three different groups, or previously broadly we used to divide it into steroid hormones and non-steroid hormones. So steroid hormones comes which has a cholesterol as their major ingredient, or we can call it as cholesterol will be their base chemical, and from cholesterol these hormones started synthesizing those hormones called as a steroid hormones. A non-steroid hormone which doesn't have a cholesterol in their structure, and those are called non-steroid hormones. So if you see then in non-steroid hormones, there are two types of the hormones like amine hormones and polypeptide hormones. So first we'll talk about the amine hormones or amine derivatives hormone or amino acid derivative hormones. These are the hormones which synthesize from the amino acids. And whenever we'll talk about a hormone and amino acid, it is a tyrosine. Tyrosine is the hormone, basic hormone from which this all amino derivatives hormone will be synthesized, and from those hormone epinephrine, norepinephrine will be synthesized by the adrenal glands, medullary gland, adrenal medulla. While thyroxine, the two tyrosine hormones combine with the four iodine ions and form thyroxine, or two tyrosine amino acid will combine with three iodine ions and form triiodothyronine. So these are all tyrosine hormones. Out of this, thyroxine and triiodothyronine or thyroxine hormones can penetrate the cell membrane. They can easily penetrate the cell membrane, while a catecholamines is like epinephrine, norepinephrine will cannot penetrate the cell membrane. So they will remain on the surface. So they can also called as surface hormones. And these thyroxine and hormones can call as a cytosolic hormone or cytoplasmic hormones. Then come to the proteins and polypeptides. As you come from the upper center to lower centers, upper will get hormones which have very small chains, bipeptide, tripeptide, octapeptide, peptide up to that. So 10 amino acid, 12 amino acid maximum will be there. And these hormones will release by the uh, hypothalamus. Then hormone released by the post-pituitary hormone is also all polypeptides, and hormone released by the anti-pituitary also almost all are the polypeptides. Apart from that, insulin, glucagon, and parathormones are also example of polypeptide hormones. Now, with this polypeptide hormone, the problem is that they cannot penetrate the cell membrane. So they always act on a cell membrane. So they are also called as surface hormones. So or membrane hormones. So they act on only on a membrane receptors. Then come to the steroid hormones. These are like glucocorticoid, mineralocorticoids, and androgen hormones, and sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and also vitamin D, which is also developed from the cholesterol. And these hormones, as they are steroid and highly lipid soluble, they can easily pass through the mm, cell membrane. And so they act on either in the cytoplasm, receptor present in the cytoplasm, or they act also and receptors present in the nucleoplasm or directly on a gene or DNA. So they are actually cytosolic hormones like thyroxine. The steroid hormones are also we can cytoplasmic hormones. Now, apart from this, these polypeptide hormones are water soluble or hydrophilic. And since they are hydrophilic, they can easily move through the blood. So they transport it in the blood usually in a free form. They don't need any help of anyone else because they like water and they can swim in water. But like this thyroxine hormone or these glucocorticoid hormones, they're not water soluble, so they're hydrophobic. They don't like mm, to go into the water. So whenever they'll release into the blood, they need some carrier proteins, and the carrier proteins are globulins. So globulin, they attach with the globulin, and they carry in the blood along with the globulin. So there has to be binding protein, hormone binding protein should be there. Like a thyroid has a thyroglobulin. Similarly, steroid hormones also has a globulin and sometimes also albumin. They bind with them, and with that only they transport it from the endocrine gland to their target organ. Now, advantage of this binding is that now they don't need to store into the say gland, but in the blood itself they act as a storage, because the bind form of the protein will not be active. They will not show their physiological effect. Only the free form will show the physiological effect, and it's like a 1 or 2% will be the free form, and remaining uh, 98% will be in a binding form. And so it always balance. So whenever the free form will be released or decrease concentration of the free form, it will start taking it from the bound form. So it will start releasing from the their protein part, and they will again become active. So it will keep and balance between the bound form and free form. So it also maintain the effect of the hormone at a constancy level. It is not like there is sudden fall in the hormone concentration or sudden increase in the hormone concentration. That is not happen with the polypeptide hormones. So polypeptide hormones has been regulated continuously, and they are always in the free form and active form. So they will have their immediate effect, and they will show their effect slowly. Then, depend upon the mechanism of action, also hormones can be divided into various groups. So there is group one hormone, which act on a intracellular receptors or cytoplasm, like the hormone which can penetrate through the cell membranes, and they goes into cytoplasm, and they has a receptors within the cytoplasm and form hormone receptor complex. And through that hormone receptor complex, they shows their effect. Either they go to the nucleus, and in nucleus it will cause the transcription of the particular mRNA, that the mRNA will increase the production of the particular type of the protein synthesis. Then come to group 2 hormone, where they cannot goes enter into the cell. So it is like a they will stay only outside the cell, and from there they will tell the cell what to do and what not to do. And how they can tell the cell what to do and what not to do? Through the any messengers, and these are called a second messenger system. So first messenger is hormone, which carries a message from the endocrine gland to the particular cell. And second messenger is from the exterior of the hormone. It goes into cell, like it is like a postman जो बाहर से पोस्ट कार्ड लेके आया आपके घर के बाहर खड़ा, and from there he's reading that letter for you. So from outside, it will just outside it act on receptors, and that receptor will increase the activity of particular chemicals inside the cell, or decrease the activity of particular chemical inside the cell, and that is called second messenger system. And these hormones act through the second messenger system, and depend upon the what type of the second messenger they utilize. On that also, they are again divided into four different groups: A, B, C, D. That group 2A type of the hormone will utilize cyclic AMP as a second messenger, while group B will utilize cyclic GMP, while C will utilize calcium or phosphatidyl inositol, or sometimes both. And D will either utilize kinase cascade system or phosphatase kinase system. Okay, before continue to next part, we'll take a 5 minutes break and then we'll continue. Now, how the hormone is transported or behave, we can consider this as like a pharmacokinetics of the hormone. So hormone transported in the blood in a two different form. One is unbound form, or also called as a free form, and these are usually catecholamines and polypeptide hormones. These are usually goes in free hormones. They remain the free, and they are always in active state. So that to increase or decrease effect, they has to increase or decrease the release of those particular hormones. So it is not stored in the blood; it is stored. These hormones are usually stored in the gland. Second form of the transportation is like a bound form, which is already told you. The hormones which are not water soluble will not able to transport in free form. So these are always bound with the albumin protein or globulin proteins, and these are usually like a steroid hormone, thyroid hormone, and vitamin D. and these hormones goes in a bound form. So now there is a here is the bound form is always inactive. They are not available for their physiological activity. So only the free form will available for their physiological activity. And it is always there is a balance between the free form and bound form. So whenever there is a decrease in the concentration of free forms, it will start releasing from the bound forms, and it will maintain the normal concentration of the hormone in the blood. So to increase or decrease their activity, that doesn't require immediate increase or increase in the secretion or decrease in the secretion of the hormones. So it is only they will have their effect very constantly. Second thing, since they are in the bound forms, they will not get cleared or metabolized fastly by the kidney. So their half-life is a little bit longer as compared to free forms. So they degrade it very slowly, not only by kidney also by the liver, and that's why they are, and it is always in as a reservoir. So that bound form is always like a reservoir of the hormones. Then come to the plasma concentration. It is a hormones. It has a usually very low concentration has a effect, and one small change in their concentration will have a huge physiological effect. And half life is you already know. So it is amount of the time which is required to decrease the concentration of the hormone of 50% of its original concentration. And depend upon the half life, we can see the how fast acting and how brief or acting of the hormone will be there. Like steroid and thyroid hormone has a bound form, so they had a significantly longer half-life period as compared to peptide hormones. Like if you see there are some peptide hormones, these are ADH or oxytocin has a very small. Similarly, if you see epinephrine, norepinephrine, they also has a half-life very small for few seconds. Well, if you come to steroid hormones, they are like from few hours to 15 days they can stay in the body for half-life. So when we're talking about half-life, it is like suppose there's a 1 gram of the hormone, and if you see its half-life is a 1 hour, so within 1 hour it will become zero point 0.5 gram. Okay, so in 1 hour the concentration reduced to reduced by zero point 0.5 gram. But if from this hour on end of the second hour, it will not become like a 5 से zero नहीं हो जाएगा. It will become 0.25 gram. Then on the third hour, it will become 0.125 gram. Like that, it will keep on decreasing. So it's completely cleared maybe by 7th or 8th of the half-life. Then very small amount of the hormone will remain. So depending upon that half-life, we have to decide the uh, how much hormone need to secrete and at what dose it should be given and all those things. So half-life is very important. Now, if you see the one of the common hormone which we use in a treatment is one of the insulin. Now, if you see the if half-life of insulin is just 5 minutes. So if you give injection of the insulin normally, it will show its effects only for few minutes. After that, its effect will be rapidly start decreasing. That's why we don't give normal insulin when we are doing subcutaneous injection. But we mix this insulin into some other substances and will make it to release into the blood slowly. So in the blood, it will goes free form of the insulin, but in the subcutaneous tissue, it will remain as a reservoir. And slowly, it will be released. So these are called like they'll act as a potamine or other like just chemicals. They mix with that, and they will try to increase the uh, duration of the doses. Otherwise, we have to given him every 5 minutes. So, so that is the importance of knowing half-life of the hormone. Then come to the functions of the hormone. Hormones play very important role in a regulation of the metabolism of the various cells. So either they can increase the particular metabolism or they can decrease the particular metabolism. Apart from the various processes also has been regulated by the hormones. So first, we'll see the regulation of the various metabolism. So They can inhibit or stimulate the formation of the particular substances. Suppose carbohydrate, they can increase the carbohydrate anabolism or they can increase the carbohydrate catabolism. Similarly, to do these functions, they will increase the synthesis of the particular enzyme. So if enzyme which causes synthesis of the protein anabolism, then that enzyme concentration will be increased in that cell, and the hormone effect will be increased in a protein anabolism. Oppositely, if some enzyme which causes protein catabolism, and if that enzyme is increased with the effect of the hormone, then that hormone will shows catabolic effect on the particular cell. Apart from it, also affect the energy utilization and energy production capacity of the cell. So some hormones increase the energy production or utilization of the source of the energy will be changed. Like insulin will increase glucose as a source of energy, while growth hormone will have increase free fatty acid as a source of energy. So depending upon the different hormones, it can also change the source of energy also. Then various body processes can be regulated by the hormones, like increase in cell multiplication, increase in the cell size, increase in maturation of the cell or differentiation of the cell, regeneration and reproduction, also emotional or sexual behavior or social behavior also will be affected by the hormones. Now, how hormones remove from the body? First and most common is hormone goes to the act on a particular cell, and they combine with the receptors, form hormone receptor complex. If it is on the cell membrane, then this hormone receptor complex will be along with the cell membrane, it will goes inside the cell and it will destroy or recycle. So this is how whenever any cells we act more and more hormones, more and more hormone receptor complex will form, and it will go internalization. Hormone receptor complex will keep on solving by the cell, and that will actually decrease the number of receptors present on the cell, and this is called down regulation of the cell receptors. That can occur when there is increased concentration of the hormone. Opposite will be there when there is less concentration of the hormone. So there will be less hormone complex receptor will be formed, and then the hormone receptor synthesis will be normal process. So it will not destroy it faster. So it will causes increased number of hormone receptors, and that is called upregulation of the hormone receptor. That we can learn when we are talk about the effect of the hormone or regulation of the hormone action on a particular cell. Then if the hormone can enter into the cell like a thyroid or steroid hormone, they form hormone receptor complex within the cytoplasm, and then it gets degraded by the lysosomal enzymes within the cell, and this is how the hormone will be removed from the body. Apart from this, other mechanisms where hormone will not act, but with other mechanism it will removed from the body or deactivated in the body, like a proteolysis. The polypeptide hormone will be there. It will lyse by the proteolytic enzymes present in the cells or in the liver, and that can reduce the effect of the hormone in the body. Then oxidation, reduction, hydroxylation, decarboxylation, methylation, glucuronidation, sulfonation, all this will make the chemical changes in the hormone and can deactivate the hormone. Then come to the regulation of the hormone effect. Is a feedback. One of the common mechanism is a feedback control, that is positive feedback and negative feedback, then neuronal control, and then chronotrophic control. Come to the feedback mechanism. There can be a negative feedback mechanism where hormone secreted by the particular gland that causes a increased hormone secretion. There is an increased hormone secretion that will act on the target cells, and that will increase particular product formation. This water product is formed will go back and act on a gland and have negative effect, and now that will decrease the hormone production. That on the target cell, that will decrease the product production. That now there will be less inhibition. Again, it will increase. And this is how it will try to maintain the concentration of the hormone and its effect. So we can call this product substrate. So hormone और substrate का ratio वो maintain करने की कोशिश करता है. So this opposite positive feedback effect will be there. Similar effect, but here opposite effect will be there. There's increase in hormone concentration that will increase particular product formation, and then that act on a gland, and that gland will again increase, and it will keep on amplifying its original effect. That also can be seen, and that you will usually see this type of the effect during ovulation. So now the mechanism of this feedback mechanism, it can be hormone feedback mechanism or hormone substrate feedback mechanism. So hormone release and hormone itself will affect, that is hormone feedback mechanism. Hormone release act on target cell, substrate will form, and substrate will affect. That is called hormone substrate effect mechanism. Then come to hormone mechanism. It is a usually seen in a hypophyseal or hypothalamo pituitary axis, where the hypothalamus will release the trophic hormones. So there is increase in secretion that will act on anti-pituitary gland, and that will increase particular pituitary hormone. The pituitary hormone will act on a target gland, and that will increase the particular target gland hormone. Okay, so this is effect. Now this hypothalamus, which are hypertrophic or pituitary trophic hormone has been released, it can affect directly on this hypothalamus and decrease the effect of the hypothalamus. That is called ultra short loop. So that is immediate effect. Release again, it is like autocrine effect also. Now second short loop will be hormone release or act on the pituitary gland, and pituitary will increase the particular hormone, and that hormone will also has a negative effect, and this is an example of short loop feedback mechanism. And long loop, when the target organ, which is third step, which act on uh, hypothalamus, that is a long loop effect, and this also has an effect on pituitary also directly, has a negative feedback mechanism that will have a long loop. Example, we can take an example of thyroid hormone. So now this is instead of target gland, we can call it as a thyroid gland. This target hormone is thyroxine. Okay, so hypothalamus will release thyrotropic releasing hormone TRH, TCR. Sorry, thyrotropic releasing hormone TRH. This TRH act on the anterior pituitary gland, and it will release the another hormone, that is TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone act on the thyroid gland, and that will release the hormone thyroxine. Now TRH, which is released by the hypothalamus, will act on hypothalamus itself and causes inhibition of the further release of the TRH. Similarly, which TRH act on TSH, which TSH release, TSH also has a negative effect on a hypothalamus, and it will causes decreased secretion of the TRH. And third thing, thyroxine will also have the effect on the TRH hormone directly and act on hypothalamus and decrease release of the TRH by the hypothalamus. Apart from this, thyroxine also act on a thyroid hormone, and it will inhibit the release of the TSH directly by the pituitary gland. So these are example of hormone feedback control. Then come to the hormone substrate feedback control. Now this is a gland. We secrete particular, sorry, we secrete a chemical insulin. This insulin act on a target cell, and it causes increased utilization of glucose, and your glucose concentration will be decreased. Okay, there is a decrease in glucose concentration. The moment this glucose concentration decrease, it will act on pituitary gland, and it will decrease insulin concentration. Opposite, you had a food. Moment you add a food, it will suddenly increase in a glucose concentration. So now there is an increase in glucose concentration that act on a target gland, and that will increase insulin secretion. Increase in insulin secretion will act on a target cell and causes utilization of the glucose, and it will cause a decreased glucose concentration. This is what Substrate hormone feedback control. Similarly, you can see with the glucagon cell. Glucagon has a direct relationship with the glucose. So whenever there is a in, decrease glucose concentration will affect alpha cell and causes increase glucagon secretion. Glucagon act on a target cell and causes decreased utilization of the glucose, and that will increase glucose concentration. So this is how it will have effect on hormone substrate level. Then come to the neural control. I guess it's too late, so we can stop here. Okay, we'll have this continue this class next time.